Hey, how's my shirt? Hey, good. Ho, 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 ho. It's Wellness Speak Live. I'm your host, DG Anthony. That is Magnus, our PhD. Good fat versus bad fat. Let's go. Let's go. What's the difference between good fat versus bad fat? Because people, you hear, it's got fat. It's got fat. Not all fats are the same. That's like saying all automobiles are the same. No, some are Kia, some are Ferrari. And so you have good fat for your body and you have bad fat. So, Magnus, let's kick it off. So, the good fats are monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. Okay, and those are your fats that are good for lowering heart disease, lowering cholesterol, helps with blood sugar, reduces inflammation, supports gut health. Found in avocados and fish and nuts and vegetables, things that you think would be in the good stuff. And then the bad fats, of course, are found in your junk foods, your fast foods, and the bad fats do the opposite of the good fats. They fucking kill you. So, Magnus, what do you have to say? Let's get into it. Good fats versus bad fats. I mean, you're PhD, you're a trainer.
So, first of all, I never really liked the good and the bad labeling, but it's to simplify certain things, because if you eat certain things, like it comes down to the quantities you're eating as well, too. But looking at it, the good fat, like you mentioned, why they are good is usually because of they have double bonds. They talk some chemistry. So they make that, usually fat has like two tails going out from head. Yeah. So that makes it that they're not just going straight. They have angles on them. So you cannot pack them as tightly as when you have saturated fat, right? Which is good because it creates more flexibility. For instance, we have fat in our cell walls and so on. And they need to be flexible because it's like a floating mosaic of things going on there. And if you have too much saturated fat, they become rigid and not as flexible. And you don't want that. That's, for instance, when we have issues with our blood vessels and so on, that they get clogged out by bad fats because they have a tendency to create these lumps, basically, that builds up over time.
Right.
What is a
By the
good
way, we're
fat?
not giving any medical advice. People check with
Of
your
course,
doctors.
definitely not. Always talk to your medical doctor regarding these things, not two guys that are sitting and talking about it as two friends on the internet. Moving forward, so you usually label them, like you said. One thing that you actually missed, and this is what if you should call something bad fat, that's the trans fats.
Correct.
That you did not bring up. I think trans fats are usually a byproduct. When we are trying to make vegetable oils, for instance, that are usually in liquid form, we're trying to make them more into a solid form because we're trying to avoid them to go rancid, that they actually turns bad, oxidize, and start smelling pretty bad. Margarine, for instance, like you have more trans fats in that. And I think that trans fats have gotten a bad rap, which they should, because it's something that is man-made and that we should not eat a lot about. So where do you find them? In a lot of processed food, like fried food,
junk food, fried food,
baking goods, so on, because it's cheap.
Cookies, cakes.
Yeah, it's cheap and it still tastes pretty good, right?
Right.
So, and mix that together with a lot of sugar, and you have kind of disastrous combination of food that we usually don't find too often in nature. So when it comes down to it, that is something that we should definitely stay away from. I'm not saying that you have to go completely cold turkey, but this is a sometimes food. Basically, even the Cookie Monster said, it's like cookies are a sometimes food, and this is definitely a sometimes food when it comes to trans fat. So keep that to a minimum. Then we have our saturated fats. Saturated fats got, I would say, a bad rep in the 80s, and saying that it was really, really bad and we shouldn't eat it. It was connected to, do you want to come and join us, Rock? Go.
We have a special guest.
Rocco wants to come in.
Guest.
You say hi.
Oh, my Lord.
Here's Rocco. He's super flustered right now.
You have a Rocco.
Yeah. So he's hanging with me.
What's up, Rocco?
So saturated fats are important because they are basically precursors, which means that they're building blocks for instance, a lot of our hormones. So testosterone and so on. So think cholesterol and all these things. So we need saturated fat, but not that much.
We need it. It's a type of saturated, like monounsaturated, like that. Right.
Yeah, no, those are the unsaturated fats you're thinking of.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right. We don't. Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
we need the
saturated
unsaturated.
fats are saturated. All basically, they do not have any double bonds on their fatty tail of the fat. So they're basically straight. Again, we need to eat some of them. So, for instance, when we eat the like in the cholesterol and all that, when we get it from eggs and so on, well, it's still kind of important fat that we get. It's something that we
So
need
they're getting a
to
bad
get
rap.
through. Yeah, because again, it's also the overconsumption that is the problem
Right.
with them.
Americans like to overconsume.
Yeah, and then
Well, the other oils that are good that we can have is avocado oil, olive oil. If
yes,
you're going to cook with oils, so not all oils are bad either. But basically, it's common sense. Stick with God-made fruits, vegetables. Lean meats, chicken, salmon. Bake it, don't fry it. Grill it, don't fry it. Water, not soda. Water, not alcohol.
yeah,
Very, very common shit. But
and also we need to also mention the omega-3s, omega-6, and
salmon.
omega-9s. So when it comes to the omega-6, for instance, the ratio between omega-6 and omega-3s, that is something that is turned kind of out of whack in Western nutrition and diets. They should be around 1-to-1, that you're eating as much omega-3s as you're eating omega-6. Right now, we're over-consuming a lot of omega-6. It could be the ratio that we're eating 20 times more omega-6s than omega-3s, for instance.
Right.
Omega-3s you can find mostly in fish and other seafood. You can still find omega-6, a lot of grass-fed beef and so on, or
Oatmeal,
wild
tofu
game.
has omega.
Yeah, or wild games has a lot of omega-3s in them as well too, because they're grazing and eating all sorts of things and eating other animals that are eating a lot of, that are grazers and eating a lot of vegetables and greens, right? So that's something that to look into. So we want to eat more omega-6 than we're actually doing. Other sources of them are seeds, for instance, and some nuts. Omega-3s are important. So if you want to increase it and you don't really like to eat too much fish and seafood, try to eat grass-fed and grass-finished beef. They contain a whole lot more omega-3s than for instance, if you're looking at other more corn-raised and finished beef and so on.
Right.
Yeah, so those are important. It's hard to get a lot of omega-6 through seeds, for instance, because first of all, seeds are not really digested, and that's not the benefits of them. It's more like that it's a prebiotic, so it helps out with our gut flora.
Probiotic,
Yeah, so it usually don't break down the seeds and so on that completely. So it's sometimes hard to get the flax or the seeds out of flax seeds and chia seeds, for instance.
Right.
Otherwise, there's a lot of good omega-3 supplements out there, but make sure that they do contain a lot of fresh and good omega-3s, because a lot of those can turn like rancid and it's just garbage products that they kind of squeeze out. So you always like look into finding something that is high quality, so you get a good amount of your omega-3s through that if you're buying it as a supplement.
Yeah, no, very well said. And try to get it through your foods, and supplements are there to help, but you can't just rely on supplements only.
Nope.
Yeah, so,
no.
But well said, Magnus. I have nothing else to contribute to this, good fat, bad fat, because again, we need fats. It's important, but it's where we get them for, like, as we said.
Yeah.
So, fruits, vegetables.
No. Again, fats are essential, and I think that is important. And should I just briefly talk why fats are important to get through your nutrition? Okay, so again, a lot of hormone regulation and things like that needs the fat, because the hormones need them as building blocks, the fat as building blocks. And so don't cut down too much on your fat that you go close to very low fat. That's not good.
We need them.
I would recommend females usually eat around 50 to 60 grams of fat, and males could go higher than that. Depending on how you do it, you can eat quite a decent amount of fats. But just remember that they're very calorie dense, so eating too much of them increase your calories. So if you're eating a lot of fats, you have to cut down a lot of your carbs. So the worst combination that you can have is basically high fat and high carb.
Yeah, because carbs turn to fat if you don't burn it off right away.
Low protein. So that would be the absolute worst diets to have, right? So remember that how we eat if we're looking at carbs and fats, it really doesn't matter what we get, as long as we get the minimum amount of fat, and then you can kind of manipulate it. Like if you know that you're going to have a very fat rich meal, maybe cut down on the carbs so you're not eating too much calories and so on. So those are a couple of things to think of and why fats are so important. Definitely hormone health, and it also keeps us fuller longer as well too, because it's satiated, because it takes longer time to sometimes it slows down. It usually lower the insulin effect and things like that also if you're eating fat together with sugars as well. Try to avoid the combination of too much carbs and too much fat.
Well said, Magnus. Okay, folks, you heard it. Good fat, bad fat. There you go. Got any questions, comments? Let us hear it. Okay, like and subscribe. Magnus, thank you as always. I'm signing
guys,
off.
hang in there.
5, 4, 3, 2, bye.